Much like video games, football is something that I have a passion for. My love of the two has always been connected. Hell, one of my earliest memories of even holding a controller was playing Tecmo Super Bowl on the NES. Growing up, I spent countless hours playing a wide variety of football games. I'm talking NFL Quarterback Club, NFL Game Day, NFL Blitz, NFL Fever, NCAA football, arena football. So many hours dumped into these games. Even just hearing a certain game's menu music, or looking at the cover art, or watching intro cinematics gets me all flushed with nostalgia. Speaking of which, my favorite intro cinematic is this one from Quarterback Club 2000. Get a load of this. Certified dirty boy Brett Favre just kind of waltzes on into this production room, fully geared up, and just starts messing with shit. Then he gets himself all pumped up watching these clips of jukes and tackles, and yeah, the game does look like that. That intro is the only good thing about Quarterback Club 2000. The game is total dog shit. In fact, there are quite a few bad football games out there, like Sterling Sharp End to End, which doesn't even feature real teams, despite the fact that Mr. Sharp is shown front and center in his Packers uniform on the damn box. It's just the nature of there being so many football games. It's the same thing with, say, Mega Man or Assassin's Creed. They can't all be good. Now, I'm about to sound really pretentious about a sport that I wasn't even good at when I played it, but just bear with me. It's tough to capture the essence of football in a video game. Coaches and players work so hard week after week to come up with schemes to confuse their opponents. It's a tough and violent sport, but at the same time it's methodical and strategic. That may sound like I'm over-glorifying things, and yeah, football is just a game at the end of the day, but when you really start to get into it and break it down, you see that it's kind of like a game of human chess. I think George Carlin put it into words better than I could ever hope to, so I'm just going to shut up for a few seconds.
In football, the object is for the quarterback, otherwise known as the field general, to be on target with his aerial assault, riddling the defense by hitting his receivers with deadly accuracy, in spite of the blitz, even if he has to use the shotgun. With short bullet passes and long bombs, he marches his troops into enemy territory, balancing this aerial assault with a sustained ground attack which punches holes in the forward wall of the enemy's defensive line.
And yeah, that's tough to translate to a video game. Nobody likes to lose when they play a game, right? Especially if they're playing against the AI. But in football, you can't be expected to win all the time. The movie Any Given Sunday exists for a reason. I, like many others, love to play football games in a simulation style, as close to the real deal as possible. I want realistic stats that are tracked from year to year. I want coaching trees and in-depth scouting. I want to feel like I'm actually outsmarting and outplanning an opponent that's trying to do the same to me. Thankfully, there are a few games in the genre that manage to hit that sweet spot. They offer great realistic gameplay, a deep franchise mode, or even both. I want to highlight 3 of them in this video, and if you're a sim football fan, you can probably guess which ones they are. This is the obvious one. It's the one that always gets brought up whenever the new Madden is coming out, and for good reason. EA is still struggling to do things that Visual Concepts nailed over a decade ago. I don't even mean just the on-field gameplay. I'm talking about stuff like the authentic ESPN presentation and the deep franchise mode. At the risk of spouting too much hyperbole, I'll say that 2K5's gameplay is just about as realistic as you can get. It isn't perfect, but it's a large step above what Madden was offering at the time, and what Madden is even offering today. But let's say you're coming from Madden, and it's your first time popping in 2K5. You might find it to be a little awkward at first. Controlling the players on the field does take some getting used to. Players don't stop and cut on a dime or warp into blocks or overpowered juke animations, they have a real weight to them. Fighting through the trenches or breaking tackles with your running back feels like a real struggle, as it should. If you aren't at the right angle when you attempt to stiff arm a defender, you're not going to pull it off. No animation is going to save you. And the passing game also takes more thought. You can't just pick 4 verts or quick slants or some other quote-unquote money play and just know that your guy will be open. You have to know your receiver's routes and read what the defense is showing you, rather than just being able to hit a button and exploit an animation for a big play. Outside of the gameplay, franchise mode is where you'll find the real meat and potatoes of 2K5. It's a super in-depth and immersive game mode. There's a lot of fun to be had in playing as one of the weaker teams in the league and trying to fight your way into the playoffs. It makes the most basic regular season games feel that much more important. I'll often have games that end with scores like 10-7 or 14-10 or some other close, low-scoring game. Real nail-biters. Sure, it probably sounds boring to the kind of player that expects lots of scoring. Didn't mean to rhyme. But to me, it makes games more exciting. Every play has more meaning behind it. Every mistake feels more draining. Every momentum shift has more weight to it. One thing in franchise mode that helps add to that feeling is the weekly preparation. Each day of the week, you have a set number of hours to fill with different activities. You can schedule things like weekly team meetings, 7-on-7 drills, film study, you can have guys hit the weight room, and so much more. Weekly prep is an optional thing, but it adds an extra layer of depth and strategy to the game. NFL 2K5 is not only a deeply immersive football sim, but it also tried some fun things on the side, like the crib, where you can decorate this apartment with bobbleheads and couches with your favorite team's logo. Your records and game trophies are all on display here too, but the best feature of this virtual loft is this big ass red phone. Every once in a while, you'll get phone calls from some celebrities. Well, for the time, maybe they were, and they'll challenge you to a game. You can play against Jamie Kennedy, Funkmaster Flex, former WCW World Heavyweight Champion David Arquette, Steve-O, and Carmen Electra, a real who's who of 2004. They'll trash talk you when they make a good play.
How's that dust taste?
And they'll get all butthurt when you take one of your plays to the fucking house.
Oh, so you're trying to make me mad?
It's a nice little novelty, but their chirps do get old after about the first quarter. I'm still hearing
No fooling flex!
in my sleep. Another game mode they tried is first-person football, which is exactly what it sounds like. You play a regular exhibition game, but you look through the face mask of whatever player you currently control. It makes the game more difficult, for sure, and people with motion sickness should probably stay away. It's a fun little diversion from the standard game modes, but not something we're spending time with. Overall, you really can't go wrong with NFL 2K5. It's a classic, even if it does make you listen to Jamie Kennedy for a whole game. This one comes to us from our good friends at It was the last college football game to be released before the Ed O'Bannon NCAA lawsuit. And that's why this game is almost impossible to find for less than $70. To sum it up, it is basically Madden but college. But that simple summary discredits all of the things that NCAA 14 gets right. And it gets a lot of things right. Mainly the Dynasty mode. In this mode, you can play as an existing coach or create one yourself. One feature I love and I wish would come back to the modern NFL games is the ability to start off as an offensive or defensive coordinator. Whatever you choose, you'll be signed to a contract with your team and be given free rein to start building them into a national championship contender. Then you get dunked into these menus with tons of options that can honestly feel a little overwhelming at first. The systems available here are a little confusing, but they do have some tutorial videos built in so you can kind of learn the ropes. Once it all clicks and you know your way around, you'll find there's a huge amount of depth to the Dynasty mode. Sure, playing as one of the bigger schools, or your favorite school, or your alma mater, whatever, it's all well and good. But like I said before, the real fun to be had here is in taking a middle of the road or even a bottom of the barrel team and turning them into a college football powerhouse. Playing as the underdog school with something to prove is a fun challenge, and it's one of the things that keeps bringing people back to the game. If you're not in the mood for something as deep as Dynasty mode, there is a more streamlined Season mode, where you simply play through a team's 2013 schedule. There's also the Road to Glory mode, which is a favorite of mine. You create a player and play as them throughout their senior year of high school as you work your way onto the college team of your choice. You can create yourself and live your dreams vicariously through this little polygonal man, or you can get buck wild with it and make a 7-foot tall high school running back that also plays safety on defense. Want to make a wide receiver that also plays linebacker? Fucking do it! No one's going to want to tackle a 250-pound receiver running a slant route like a goddamn freight train. Aside from the goofiness of its player creator, Road to Glory does have some depth to it as well. When you commit to a college program, you can see where you'll end up on the team's depth chart. For a lot of the schools, you'll have to work your way up the depth chart by performing well in practices and whatever time you happen to get on the field. If you build up your coach's trust enough, you can start a position battle to move up and get more playing time. Building your coach's trust also lets you have more control in the huddle and during pre-snap as you become a team leader. So whether you build a respectable Boy Scout of a football player, or you roll on as a giant named Brantley Booger Boy, you'll have plenty of stuff to do in this mode aside from just going game to game. NCAA 14 is great however you choose to play it, and you're never forced to listen to Jamie Kennedy, so that's a plus. This is the one I've been wanting to sing the praises of on video for years. I didn't play this game when it came out because I was still in the mindset of only wanting to play as NFL teams with updated rosters and all that. I slept on 2K8 for far too long. Sure, it doesn't have any real teams or current players, and yeah, its visual design is a little over the top, but that shouldn't drive you away from playing this game if you love football. Remember when I described NFL 2K5's gameplay as just about as realistic as you can get? Well, All Pro's gameplay is even better than that. It's built on the same engine, so it's the same kind of gameplay, but here it's much more refined. Player movement, while not perfect, is certainly the most realistic I've seen. Quarterbacks even have different throwing animations based on how deep or how hard they have to throw. Even special teams play is more rewarding. They have you use the right stick to influence the power and direction of your kicks. It's much more engaging than pressing a button to set the power and accuracy. Special teams plays are treated as an important part of the game, just as it is in real life, not treated as some arbitrary thing that you're forced to get through. In All-Pro 2K8, a chunk of your team is made up of legendary NFL players. Thinking about how each individual legend impacts the game goes a long way in deciding how I build my team, because it's not about just having players with the highest overall rating. When building your team, you get 2 gold star legends, 3 silver, and 6 bronze. The rest is filled with generic run-of-the-mill guys. You can change the generic player's tendencies, but that's it. Like, you can have the linebackers be better at covering passes, for example. Each legend that you pick for your team comes with a set of traits that reflect how they play. For example, count how many times I've said for example in this video, but for example, Randall Cunningham is a scrambling quarterback with a big arm. If I'm planning to focus a team around scoring quick and scoring often, then I want a quarterback like him, because I'm going to be spending more of my star player points on receivers, tight ends, running backs, while leaving my offensive line up to the player generator. That's what makes All-Pro football so replayable. Trying out different team compositions doesn't get old. Where the game falters is in the total lack of a franchise mode. Visual Concepts didn't develop a full franchise mode because the game is centered around these legends from different eras. They couldn't come up with a rational way for these legends to develop or age over multiple seasons. There is a season mode, similar to the one found in NCAA 14, but it's very bare bones with not much to do aside from playing game after game. The lack of a franchise mode does hurt replayability a bit, but I think the strength of the gameplay makes up for it. And you don't have to listen to Jamie Kennedy. So what was the point of this video? Was there one? I guess my point was to highlight games that most accurately represent this sport that I love and why I love it. Did I succeed in getting that point across? I don't know, you tell me, I'm just making sounds over here. If you've made it this far into the video, go ahead and drop a touchdown in the comments. Good night. John bless.